So this is just a quick install video for 42-inch light bar for the Bronco. I have here the RoadShock LED 42-inch combination spot flood light bar from all places Harbor Freight. And this is $149.99 regular price. Got it with a coupon 15% off. And even at $149, this seems like a pretty well-made product. I know there's lots of fancy ones out there from the big name brands, $800, $1,200, $1,500, even more for a light bar. I kind of consider these things perishable items over time, no matter how good they're made. And presumably a $800 and up light bar would be better performing than this, but this one has really good reviews on Harbor Freight. And just didn't want to spend a ton of money on a light bar, and I think this one will work for me just fine. So it comes very well packaged. It's got a wiring harness and it's got some hardware, but I have a TrailRax rack, which is a pretty popular rack for the Bronco. I've already got the rack installed, and just a little description of what I'm doing here. So I've flipped the light so that wiring harness is going to be on the passenger side. And that's because Ford has done some pre-wire up here. I'm going to have to go inside, remove the passenger side visor and some trim, but there's a wire up here that I can get to that will work off of my auxiliary switches. This light bar is, if you can believe the specs on it, it's rated at 155 watts. Math on that suggests that 12 or 13 amps should be the max draw on it. So I'm going to try and wire it without the use of a relay, just directly off of my switches. And so I'm going to wire this to my aux2 switch, which is a 15 amp circuit, got a 15 amp fuse on it. If the numbers are right, that should work just fine for this. So a couple notes on the install. The hardware that came with the light bar would not work with the TrailRax rack. It uses a 1/4-20 system, and I just went to my local hardware and got some stainless button head 1/4-20s to put the brackets on. I've got it all mounted up. What I'm going to do next is prop up the roof rack, support it, and remove this bracket. I'm going to drill a hole through that and also through the TrailRax bracket. So I'm going to bring this harness down and have it come directly to that hole, get it stubbed inside where I can hook it up to the wiring. Now I have already moved the wind deflector off of the TrailRax rack, and the only issue I see so far is a little bit of interference here with the light brackets on the Harbor Freight light bar. So I'm going to take these brackets off. I'm going to have to grind this down a little bit so that the TrailRax wind deflector will fit right in here flush without being pushed forward at the top here by these brackets. So other than that, it should be a pretty straightforward install. I'm going to go ahead and get set up to drill the holes and remove that trim on the inside. So I'm on the passenger side up where the visor mounts. There's this little cover trim piece that I use my trim tool to pop off. Just take your time, be gentle with it as you can. Once you remove that and you flip the visor back, you'll see that there is a bolt here that holds the visor in place. It's a 7mm socket. Once I have the visor removed, I should be able to remove this whole trim piece right here. It'll pop down. I should be able to find the pre-wire from Ford behind there, and I'll also be able to feed through the cable that I'm going to bring in through the roof bracket on the passenger side. So the visor is held in by just a single bolt, and it's got this lip on the one side here that catches up in there. When this drops down, you do have this wiring harness for the light mirror in the visor. We'll get this disconnected. Okay, so now I have a hole drilled in my roof, and you'd think that would be pretty straightforward, easy to accomplish. You got several layers of steel laminated here, and thank you for it. It's pretty good steel. I, embarrassingly enough, broke a drill bit trying to get through this, and had to fight a little while to get the hole there. But here is my bracket, my TrailRax bracket. I've got a hole in that too, and this will go on here like that. I'll be able to feed the wire through, get it down in the hole. I've got some 100% silicone seal I'm going to seal it top and bottom of this bracket, and of course around the cable when I get that through. Now I have the TrailRax bracket all bolted back in place. I've got my cable fed through. I could have made a smaller hole if I just wanted to feed the 2 wires from the harness through there, but we're going through metal without a bushing, and I wanted to keep that extra jacket on the outside, a part that's going through the actual roof metal, and so I made a bigger hole. But it's all sealed up now with the marine grade 100% silicone, and I'm going to let this dry overnight. Next up, I will take these brackets off, do a little bit of grinding and repainting here so that the TrailRax wind deflector will fit on here. And then it should be about done for the outside part. So here are the brackets for the light, and I've done just a little modification here. I've taken a little bit of steel out right here with an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. Done a little repainting on these. Getting ready to bolt all that up, hopefully for the last time. So here's a little walkthrough through the electrical install, and there's the bundle of wires coming down through from the aux switches. I've got the green one with the brown stripe there. That is the aux 2 switch. And then I've used some waterproof connectors here on these in case I want to swap them around later. I don't have to go cutting into wires again. I can just swap them on using the plugs. And then I've got the brown wire with the white stripe. This is one of the B1, B2 circuits that goes over to the area behind the glove box, so we can go pick it up over there. Then the glove box, it's pretty easy to get back here behind this. There's some push tabs on both sides that will drop it down a little bit, and there's a little arm here that catches it. And if you can see in here, we can just move that up a little bit, disconnect that arm, and then the glove box will just fall right down. I think you can lift this off of here if you completely want to take it off the hinges. But behind the glove box here, we can see the wire with orange stripe. It's the one that goes up the A-pillar to the area above the passenger side visor. Here is our brown wire with the white stripe that is coming from over on the driver's side of the firewall where we just were. And then the other issue is, even though Ford has run this pre-wire up in the A-pillar to the visor area, you still need to get a good ground for the light. And I tried to ground it up at the visor with the bolt, the screw bolt that holds the visor in place. There's a metal clip there, and it turned out that wasn't a very good ground. There's some resistance to chassis ground from there for some reason, and I was getting like 5 or 6 volts to my light. It was coming on but very dim, and then I figured out what my issue was just not having a good enough ground. So I did run a ground wire back through here. It comes down the A-pillar, stuck behind the trim with the trim tool, and tucked in, come in underneath the glove box. And then there is an electronics module here bolted to the wall, passenger side wall here. So I just ran the ground wire here underneath this mounting bolt. That turned out to be a very solid ground, and I'm getting the full voltage to the light bar with that. So that's it for the electrical install. Pretty straightforward, and really one of the cooler features that Ford has done with this pre-wiring. Really makes it easy to use those aux switches and not have to run too many wires all over the place to make stuff like this happen. So here's the finished install on the lights, and I gotta say I'm pretty impressed with the brightness and the quality. And the only modification I had to make to put this on the TrailRax rack was cut notches in here a little bit on the brackets. I could have turned the brackets going in, but then you'd have to tighten the bolts on the bottom that hold it to the cross rail. You'd have to tighten those first, and then you wouldn't have access to them after you put the side bolts in to hold the light on. So doing it this way seemed more natural, and you'd be able to get to both sets of bolts here the one that holds it to the rail and the one that holds the light. You'll be able to access them pretty easily. And the last finishing touch is, I happen to live in a state, quite a few states actually, require a cover on off-road lights like this, especially big light bars mounted up above your headlight level. And a couple ways to go on that. You could get a fabric like a nylon kind of Velcro kind of fabric cover. That might not fit all too well, might be a little flappy in the wind and everything. So I found these plastic covers from Blazer International. They come in sets of a 6-inch one and an 8-inch one. I got 3 of them at $9.99 or something a piece. I'll put the link below. But these snap onto the light bar, and they actually fit this light bar quite well. I think they snap on very positively. So I'm going to try these, see how they do, how they hold up in the sun and the weather. I don't expect to use that light bar too much unless I'm on a longer off-road trip. I just leave the covers off. And the one mod that I did to these to make them work is I trimmed just a little bit off of 3 of them so that the combination of the 6 pieces will fit in the width of the light bar pretty well. So I'll take a shot of that as well with all of these installed. So here's a final look with everything in place. I've got the wind deflector on the TrailRax rack back in place. I've got all the covers on for the light bar itself. And I gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with this so far. Can't wait to get it out in the wide open. Do a little desert running at night, see how this works. So it's pretty straightforward. That's it. If you like this content, please give me a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.